Do you believe in destiny? Because what I'm about to tell you today will challenge everything you think you know about coincidence. This is the real love story, with an unexpected ending of an ordinary guy who fell in love with the wrong girl at the right time. Or was it the right girl in disguise? While everyone was focused on enjoying just another Halloween party, he was about to experience a love reunion after years apart. He just didn't know it yet. Chapter 1. The Halloween party was at its peak when he saw her for the first time. Among papier-mâché ghosts and illuminated pumpkins, there was something about that masked girl that made his heart beat differently, as if destiny had conspired for that meeting to happen exactly that night. The Venetian mask covered half her face, but her eyes, oh, those eyes were windows to a soulmate he didn't even know he was looking for. It was one of those love stories that begin when you least expect it, forbidden but true, secret like the very Halloween night surrounding them. They talked for hours, hidden in a corner of the porch, while the party went on inside the house. She had a contagious laugh that transformed any silly joke into something magical, and he found himself sharing dreams he had never told anyone. It was as if they had known each other for years, not just hours. True love sometimes arrives like this, without warning, breathtaking, breaking all the rules of what we thought we knew about passion. Each word exchanged between them seemed like a love letter written by the universe, building a connection that went far beyond the physical, touching and unforgettable. When midnight approached, he felt a tightness in his chest, that sensation that something transformative was about to happen. "Oh, can I see your face?" he asked, his voice choked with emotion, extending his hand toward her mask. She hesitated for a moment that seemed to last an eternity, and there was something in her eyes, a gleam of fear, perhaps hope, definitely something epic that was about to reveal itself. The silence between them was poignant, loaded with tension that made the air seem denser, as if destiny itself was holding its breath along with them. Chapter 2. She slowly removed the mask, and his world stopped. It wasn't just the beauty that impressed him. It was the instant recognition, as if all the pieces of a cosmic puzzle finally fell into the right place. It was Clara, the girl from the college library, the one he saw every day for months but never had the courage to approach, the one who represented his first unrequited passion. Or at least, that's what he thought until that redemptive moment. Destiny and love had worked together in such a cinematic way that it seemed like a movie script, an unbelievable coincidence that united a couple already destined to meet. "You," was all he could say, his voice failing as if all the words in the world had evaporated. Clara smiled, and in that smile there was a mix of relief and confession. She had also recognized him from the beginning of the night, but wanted to live that magical moment without the weight of awkward daily university interactions. It was an impossible love story that suddenly became possible, a romance with a twist so poetic it could only be the work of something greater. They laughed together, a nervous and liberating laugh, as they realized they had spent months avoiding each other out of shyness when they could have been living this overwhelming connection. "I see you every day in the library," Clara confessed, nervously playing with a strand of hair that fell over her shoulder. "And I always wanted to talk to you, but never knew how to start a conversation without seeming strange." He held her hand, and the touch was electric, charged with all the unlived possibilities up to that transformative moment. The party continued around them, but it was as if they existed in their own bubble, where only that love reunion, because now they knew that's what it was, truly mattered. Chapter 3. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of discoveries and encounters that seemed like scenes from heartwarming love stories. They met between classes, transformed the library into their secret meeting point, and each moment together was a silent love declaration that kept intensifying. Clara had the habit of leaving small notes in the books he borrowed, modern love letters, full of poetry quotes and silly drawings that made him smile in the middle of the most boring classes. It was hopeful, and at the same time frightening, because the more he got to know her, the more he realized he was falling into a true love that could change everything. But not everything was roses in this discovered soulmate journey. Clara's family was traditional and had rigid plans for her future: medicine, an arranged marriage with someone from the same social circle, a life plan since childhood that didn't include a relationship with an art student without great financial prospects, at least not in their eyes. This revelation came on a rainy December afternoon when Clara arrived at their meeting with red eyes and a broken heart. "They want to send me to study in Europe next semester," she said, and each word was like a stab in his chest. Long-distance love presented itself as a real and terrifying possibility, a trial by fire that would test whether that connection was really as strong as it seemed. "We can't let this end like this," he said, holding her face between his hands with an intensity that bordered on desperation. It was a poignant moment, one of those that define the course of an entire life, where decisions need to be made even when there's no clarity about the consequences. Clara hesitated, torn between family duty and that gripping feeling that had taken over every cell of her body since Halloween night. The silence between them was loaded with unspoken possibilities, with futures that might or might not materialize, with a love being tested before even having a chance to fully bloom. Chapter 4. Clara left for London in January, taking with her half his heart and the promise that they would fight for that true love. The first months were an exercise in faith, video calls crossed by cruel time zones, text messages trying to capture the essence of hugs that could no longer be given, photos trying to shorten a distance that seemed to increase each day. But there was something inspiring about that impossible love story that refused to end. Each overcome obstacle made them more certain they were living something unforgettable, something worth every tear shed in the loneliness of dawn. He worked 3 different jobs to save money, economizing every penny with a clear goal: surprise her on her 21st birthday in June. It was a bold and slightly crazy plan, but love does that to us, transforms rational people into incurable romantics who believe epic gestures can change the course of destiny. He didn't tell her anything, keeping the secret as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Friends thought it was madness. Family questioned whether it wasn't better to move on, but he knew, with that certainty that only those who live love after loss understand, that this was a second chance at love he couldn't waste. When he finally managed to buy the ticket, 3 days before her birthday, he felt a mixture of euphoria and terror. What if she had changed her mind? What if distance had done what distance usually does? Cooling feelings that seemed eternal. But as the plane took off, he looked out the window and felt a transformative peace. Regardless of the result, he was doing his part, fighting for that real love story with an unexpected ending that deserved to be lived to its ultimate consequences. The sky outside was an impossible blue, as if even nature conspired for that moment of healing through love to happen. Chapter 5. London was cold and grey when he arrived, but his heart was on fire. With the help of Clara's best friend, he organized a surprise that would be impossible to forget: a picnic in Hyde Park, recreating the first date they had after the Halloween party, when they ate bad sandwiches on a campus bench while watching the sunrise. Clara was taken there under the pretext of a photo session for a college project, unsuspecting of anything. When she saw him there, standing under a tree with a bouquet of sunflowers, her favorite flowers, the crying came immediately, releasing months of accumulated longing in a hug that seemed to want to compensate for all the lost time. When did you? She tried to form sentences between sobs and laughter, but words didn't matter anymore. They stayed there, embraced, while the world kept spinning around them without them noticing. It was one of those breathtaking moments you keep in memory like a treasure, living proof that heartwarming love stories don't only exist in movies or books. He handed her an envelope, and inside were letters. Dozens of them, one for each day they spent apart, each telling a detail of his routine, each reaffirming that true love survives any distance when it's genuine. They spent the entire weekend together, making up for lost time and building memories that would need to last until the next meeting. On the last night, sitting by the Thames watching the city lights reflect on the dark water, he held her hand and said the words he had been mentally rehearsing for weeks. "I know we still have a long way ahead. I know your family doesn't approve. I know distance is cruel," he began, and she could feel his heart racing through their intertwined fingers. "But I also know you're my soulmate, and I'll wait as long as it takes." It wasn't an emotional marriage proposal yet, but it was an even more important promise, that he wouldn't give up. Chapter 6. Clara returned home 6 months later, and things had changed. She had changed. The experience in Europe had given her a new confidence, a firmer voice to face the family expectations that previously seemed unbreakable. In a tense and necessary conversation, she made it clear to her parents that she loved medicine, but also loved that guy who had waited for her with a faithfulness you don't see anymore these days. It was a story of forgiveness that saved our relationship, as she would say years later. Her parents, forgiveness for her choosing her own path, and her own forgiveness for almost having given in to external pressures and given up on true love. The reunion at the airport was worthy of a 90s romantic movie. He was nervous, holding a handwritten sign that simply said, "Welcome home forever." And when Clara passed through the arrival gates and their eyes met, it was as if all the months of long-distance love instantly dissolved. She ran, dropping her bags on the floor without caring, and threw herself into his arms with a force that almost knocked them down. "Never again," she whispered in his ear. "Never again will we be apart for so long." It was a promise, an oath, a love declaration more powerful than any formal words could express. The following months were of reconstruction and discovery. They had to learn to be together again, no longer in the magical bubble of the beginning, but in the reality of everyday life with all its imperfections and beauties. And surprisingly, it was even better than before. It was love after loss that had matured, that understood the value of each shared moment because it knew the weight of each moment stolen by distance. Clara started medical school while he finally opened his own art gallery, and together they were building not just a relationship, but a shared life full of intertwined dreams and infinite possibilities. Chapter 7. 2 years later, at a Halloween party, because destiny has a sense of humor, he finally asked the question. He recreated the original party down to the smallest details, the same decorations, the same playlist, even the same people invited when possible. Clara arrived, thinking it was just a nostalgic celebration, having no idea of the emotional marriage proposal that awaited her. When midnight approached, he took her to the same corner of the porch where they had talked for the first time, and there, kneeling with a velvet box in his trembling hands, he transformed that true love into a promise of eternity. 3 years ago, you took off the mask and changed my life forever, he began, and his voice was choked with emotion but firm in its certainty. Since then, every day with you has been a discovery. Every challenge we've faced has made us stronger, and every moment of doubt made me even more certain that you're my soulmate. Clara was already crying, her hands covering her mouth as she shook her head in a yes before he even finished the question. Do you want to spend the rest of your life taking off masks with me, discovering all the versions of ourselves we'll still become? It was a perfect romance with a twist. What began as a secret passion at a Halloween party was transforming into a public commitment of eternal love. The surprise wedding happened 6 months later in an intimate but deeply meaningful ceremony. Lara's parents, who were once obstacles in their story, were in the first row with tears in their eyes, finally understanding that true love doesn't follow schedules or social expectations. It simply happens, triumphant and inevitable, like the changing of seasons. As they exchanged rings, both thought of the masked girl and the shy boy who met that Halloween night, not imagining they were starting one of the most beautiful, heartwarming love stories they would ever know. And when the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," and he finally lifted her veil, it was like taking off that Venetian mask for the second time, a revelation, a confirmation, a happy ending that was, in fact, just the beginning of everything. So, did this story move you? Look, I want you to stop now and think. How many opportunities for true love have you let pass because of fear, shyness, or because you thought it wasn't the right time? Clara and his story teaches us that there's no perfect moment. There's courage to risk when the connection is real. So tell me here in the comments, do you believe in destiny and love? Or do you think we create our own coincidences? Have you ever experienced an unexpected love reunion? Have you ever felt that sensation of finding your soulmate? Share your story down here because I'm sure you have a heartwarming love story stored away too. And if you want to keep seeing stories that will make you believe in true love again, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Every week there are new stories that will make you laugh, cry, and most importantly, believe that happy endings aren't just movie stuff.